Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. I am Dave Biddle, flying solo on today's show. All right, so a lot to get into. Obviously, Jim Knowles had a lot to say in an ESPN piece yesterday, written by Heather Dinich. I'm sure Jim did not reach out to her. I'm sure she reached out to him. But we're only hearing one side of the story. I'm going to get into like interesting parts of what Knowles said. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have read that by now. But we're going to get into what Knowles said. I'll give you my take on it. There's a lot to unpack with the Jim Knowles stuff. And then I want to get into odds to win the Big Ten championship. Just kind of, this isn't going to be really about gambling. This is just going to be about, those are kind of a peek into maybe the real rankings. I always give more validity to Vegas's rankings than the AP poll preseason rankings, for example. So some interesting stuff, including, and not just national championship, but Big Ten championship, Heisman odds. There's some interesting things with the Heisman odds involving Ohio State. So a bunch of good stuff to get into. Welcome to the show. So before we get to all of that, I'll let you guys know again about Brunt. Look at these boots. Look at these. Brunt boots. They're fantastic. Brunt has designed the best work boots on this planet. I'm not exaggerating. They have designed boots that withstand the toughest job sites while feeling as comfortable as your favorite sneakers. Seriously, they're extremely comfortable. They also look great. So even for podcasters like me, I can throw them on with jeans and people are like, wow, where'd you get those boots? I'm like, Brunt. We can get you guys a good deal too. These are the most comfortable work boots you will ever have worn, but they also deliver real performance on the job. Brunt is so confident these boots will blow you away, they even let you try it on the job risk-free. How about that? Brunt also has plenty of other gear for tough jobs, such as weather-resistant jackets, pants, and more. All right, for a limited time, our listeners can get $10 off at Brunt with code BUCKNUTS at checkout. Head to bruntworkwear.com, use code BUCKNUTS, and you're all set. Brunt didn't just make a durable work boot. They reinvented comfort for the hardest workers out there. Again, for a limited time, our listeners get $10 off at Brunt by using code BUCKNUTS at checkout. Just head over to bruntworkwear.com, use code BUCKNUTS, and you're all set. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Again, that's bruntworkwear.com. Use code BUCKNUTS. You get $10 off. Boom. People are going to be asking you where you got those boots. All right, Jim Knowles. First thing, I like Jim Knowles. I always have. I always did. Do I still? Yeah, I still like him. I'm not going to like him one time this year, maybe twice this year, maybe 3 times this year if they play in the Big Ten. No, they probably wouldn't play. I mean, they could. They could. It's kind of like basketball now, where Duke and Carolina sometimes play 3, possibly even 4 times a year, because you play twice in the regular season and once in the ACC championship game and once in March Madness, although I don't know if they've ever played 4 times. So technically Ohio State and Penn State could play 3 times. But yeah, I like Jim Knowles. I have a problem with some of the things he said, and I'm going to get to that. But Jim Knowles was at Ohio State for 3 years. He took over a defense that was horrible. So bad that they had to demote Kerry Combs after 2 games in the 2022 season, give it to Matt Barnes, who wasn't ready, but was still an upgrade over Kerry Combs. So he took over a bad defense and bam, immediately improved them quite a bit. Now this past year, of course, they had like tons of talent, but we've seen teams before that have tons of talent that don't finish as the number 1 defense in the country in every meaningful category. I mean, Ohio State was the number 1 defense in scoring, number 1 defense, total defense, best goal line defense, best red zone defense. I mean, you name it. I mean, every important defensive stat, the Buckeyes were number 1. And what wins championships in football? Defense. So it's funny, Nico Harrison, the Mavs GM, saying defense wins championships. Like, that's a football motto, not basketball, especially not in the NBA. Anyway, defense wins championship in football. We've learned that. Georgia, I mean, they had good offenses too. Ohio State had a very good offense, obviously, but defense wins championships. Georgia, their back-to-back titles was built on defense. Most of that, like when Saban's dynasty was going on, yeah, they had good offenses, but built on defense. I hate to say it, but whoever won it in 2023 had a really good defense. And, of course, the Buckeyes in 2024, number 1 defense. So I always liked Knowles personally. He was always good to me, and I think good to the media overall, and I think good to fans. At the time I saw him interact with fans, he was always very nice and jovial. And I think he's a good guy. And I appreciate what he did for Ohio State. He came here, he delivered the goods. As I said, they got markedly better his first year. Sorry, I messed that up. 2021 is when they demoted Kerry Combs. Obviously, 2022 was Knowles' first year. And while they weren't a great defense that year, they were much better than the previous year. And then they got a lot better in 2023. And then they're number one defense overall in 2024 with the national championship. So still basking, and Knowles is a big reason why. So hats off to him for what he did for Ohio State. All right. So a couple of things I have a problem with here. First of all, he's going to Ohio State the week of the national championship game asking for a raise. And you can say, well, his agent's just doing his job. Okay, I'm Knowles. I'm telling my agent, wait till after the damn game to do that. Okay. I don't like that. I wasn't aware. I mean, I knew some stuff was going on. I was not aware of that. And the whole stuff with the parade, I mean, from what I was told, Bjork and Ryan Day, if they told him not to go, which I think they did, I think they told him not to go. But that was after they learned that he had reached out to Penn State. So what are they supposed to do? I would have done the exact same thing. You can say it's petty. I think it would have been petty if they just thought he was, but he's like literally reaching out to Penn State. Franklin, you read the piece, Franklin didn't reach out to him, which I found fascinating. Usually with back channels, you would have thought Franklin would have found out that Knowles was looking around because Oklahoma was the one that we all knew about. Notre Dame was in the mix, which is funny considering they're about to play Notre Dame. So I have a problem with that. Got a lot of problems with you people. We're going to air some grievances here on Festivus. We're going to have the feats of strength. Don't like that. I don't like trying to hold your team hostage the week of the freaking national championship game. Okay. After you win it, do it. Do whatever you want. Okay. And then the idea that I would have stayed at Ohio State, but they didn't give me what Penn State, but I would have taken less. Well, how much less? He already got another contract extension 1 year ago. It wasn't like this. He was still operating on his original contract. He was only in year 3 anyway, but he already had gotten a new contract extension. So he was under contract for another couple years, was making, I'm sure Ohio State offered him at least $2.5 million. He was making like 2.2 or right around there. So I'm sure he even said Ohio State came in with an offer. It just wasn't what Penn State offered. I don't have any problem with any of the money stuff, but I just didn't like the timing of it. Okay. And then, but he's going to his home state and, is what it is. Okay, another thing I want to point out though, we're only hearing one side of the story here. And I give Ryan Day and Ross Bjork credit because Heather Dinich, who I think does a good job. I had a chance to meet her when I was down in Atlanta. She's a very nice lady, does a good job. She reached out to Ryan Day and Ross Bjork. They both said no comment. Wise move. There's no reason to continue to give this oxygen. I'm sure one of them was tempted to be like, this isn't exactly true. That's, kind of fudged a little bit. We're hearing one side of the story. What I think happened was after that, the first Oregon game, I think Ryan Day just absolutely undressed Jim Knowles. Not literally, okay? I think you guys know what I mean. Figuratively, he undressed him. And I don't think Knowles ever really got over that. And then when the tables flipped, when the tables turned, and it was the offense that crapped the bed against Michigan, the defense had to stand on its head for the entire game. I think then Knowles was like, how you like me now? And then they go in this run in the playoffs where both the offense and the defense were clicking. It wasn't just the defense. I think he never got over getting, and especially after they then kicked Oregon's butt in the rematch. I don't think he ever got over Ryan Day just completely in my opinion, I wasn't there, obviously. In my opinion, I think Ryan Day, called him on the carpet after that 32-31 loss at Oregon when Ohio State it looked like the Kerry Combs defense where they're just giving up big play after big play after big play after big play. And we saw what they can do against Oregon. When Oregon's a juggernaut. What are you going to do? How about 34-0 midway through the second quarter in the Rose Bowl? The Ohio State mixed up its defensive scheme quite a bit after that. And now I'm curious. I gave Knowles a lot of credit for that. I've heard Matt Guerreri was a big part of that. Stuff like using Caleb Downs as like a hybrid mic, hybrid safety, hybrid mic, the way they were using him. It was just so cool the way they were just using their chess pieces. And I was giving Knowles credit for that, and I'm sure you have to give him a lot of credit for it. But maybe some of the schematic stuff it was suggested to him by Matt Guerreri, Tim Walton. James Laurinaitis is doing a great job. Great job. And give Cody Simon the most of the credit. But look how James Laurinaitis helped turn Cody Simon into having one of the best seasons we've seen for an Ohio State middle linebacker. You wouldn't say Cody Simon's career is as good as some of the middle linebackers you've seen at Ohio State, but that 1 year, this past year, that's as good as I've seen. I mean, he parlayed it into being a 4th-round pick. Nobody had him going in even probably most people had him as an undrafted free agent entering this season. And he turns it into a 4th-round pick, and that's a good deal for the Cardinals. He's going to be a good, solid player there for a long time. So James Laurinaitis is doing a great job. So we're only hearing one side of the story. I don't, whatever. Still basking. And one more thing about this. I feel like, and I don't, I'm not naive. This isn't me trying to be like, I don't know, everything is sunshine and roses. I really feel like we're going to look back on this. There's a good chance all parties will have thought that it worked out well for them. Why do I say that? Knowles is back in his home state making $3.1 million a year. Less pressure. Penn State, there's a lot of pressure. Not as much pressure as Ohio State. And Knowles talked about that. It's just different at Ohio State. He said, I like what he said. He's like, they kind of wear it as a badge of honor in Columbus. He's like, yeah, it's just Ohio State. That's just how it is. Like, they wear it as a badge of honor. That's true. Less pressure at Penn State, making $3.1 million a year in his home state. He's originally from Philly, as you guys know. Grew up a Penn State fan. I think he's happy. I bet you James Franklin's happy. He's got a good defensive coordinator. He poached it from Ohio State, who at last check, let me look at my fake watch here. At last check, Ohio State is 10-1 against James Franklin. 10-1. Ohio State's 12-1 against Penn State, including the 2 Bill O'Brien years. So the last 13 years, Ohio State's 12-1 against the Nittany Lions. You think James Franklin's happy? Heck yes. You know who else is happy? Ryan Day. Because I know for sure he feels like he hit a grand slam home run with Matt Patricia. So I think we're going to look back and all parties are going to be happy. Hopefully Ohio State the happiest. All right, I'm going to get to some other stuff here now. Check this out. If you're just listening to the show, I'll read it off to you. We're going to talk about some odds to win the Big Ten. I've got the top 10 teams listed of the 18 teams. This is very interesting. There's some big gaps here. There's some tiers. All right, here we go. Number 1, the Ohio State University. They are your favorite to win the Big Ten. But look how close this is. Ohio State's plus 210. Plus 210 to win the Big Ten. Penn State plus 250. And Oregon plus 270. Those are your top 3, bunched together. Then there's a big gap. Michigan at 4th, plus 850. And another big gap. Illinois, Indiana, Nebraska, USC, all tied, plus 3,500. 9th is Iowa, plus 4,500. And 10th is Washington, plus 6,500. Washington's going to be a good team this year. So is Illinois. Illinois should be, in my opinion, have better odds than that, even though I don't think they're going to win. But I don't think they should be tied with like USC. That's just name recognition right there. That's why USC's in there. Nebraska will be better. I know we say that every year, but they actually were a little bit better last year, and I think they'll be a little bit better this year. It'll be solid. Illinois is going to be tough, and Ohio State has to play at Illinois. But let's look at that. What are they telling you right there? 3 teams are the clear favorites, right? 3 teams, clear favorites. Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, all bunched together there. Bam. Plus 210 Ohio State, plus 250 Oregon, plus 270, or plus 250 Penn State, plus 270 Oregon. Bam. Pretty big gap then till Michigan at 850. So they're saying Michigan has a chance, but an outside chance. And they said, really, but nobody else really has a legit chance, is what they're saying. You're down to 30, like 35-1 odds. That's a big-time long shot. Even though I said Washington's going to be a good team, they're a massive long shot, 65-1. And I'm not even giving you guys the ones that are such long shots that I didn't have room to add them, like Northwestern and the like. But how about Indiana being in there? Illinois should be just 5th by themselves, in my opinion. Illinois is going to be good. They were good last year, and they're bringing a ton of guys back, including their quarterback. And Burt, we all like to make fun of Burt. He's doing a good job there. And dare I say he's been kind of likable. So I find this interesting. Odds to win the Big Ten championship. So, yeah, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, although winning the Big Ten has really lost its luster because it's all about, like, for me this year, it's all about beating Michigan and making the CFP and then seeing where the chips fall after that. Beat Michigan, make the CFP. If you have to skip playing the Big Ten championship game, it worked out okay last time I checked. But I don't want the double whammy of losing to Michigan and not playing in the Big Ten championship game. So if beating Michigan means also going to the Big Ten championship game and winning, okay, winning. Charlie Sheen voice. All right, we're going to look at some national championship odds in a moment. I have one more ad read I'm going to do. But yeah, Illinois, Indiana, Nebraska. Why is USC in there? Just name recognition. Iowa actually brought in a quarterback from the FCS level that can throw the ball. They might actually have a quarterback that's going to throw for over 1,000 yards this year. Being a little facetious there. He'll probably throw for even over 2,000 yards. Seriously, they're bringing in they got a pretty good quarterback they're bringing in from the FCS level. It's not like he's coming in from like D3. This kid can play. We know those. It's funny how the FCS has been taken over, not just recently, but the last 20 years have been taken over by the Dakotas. The 4 schools in North and South Dakota combined, and Montana, pretty much. I guess Northern Illinois is in there a little bit, but like that area of the country, the Dakotas have taken over FCS football. Come on, Youngstown State. I know Jim Tressel's not walking through that door. He's got other things on his plate right now, like being the lieutenant governor of the great state of Ohio. But come on, Youngstown State. Tressel won 4 national titles there. You guys need to pick it up a little bit. All right. So we're going to get to national championship odds in a moment, but I do find these odds very interesting. There you go. They're telling you 3 teams really have a chance, and they have almost an equal chance is what they're telling you there. And then Michigan has a chance. Maybe some name recognition is at play there, putting them 4th, but plus 850. They're not a long shot, but they're kind of a long shot. And then everybody else is a long shot. Although I said the best value is definitely on Illinois, in my opinion. If you're looking for a long shot, Illinois at plus 3,500 that's the play if you're looking for a long shot. But I don't think Illinois is going to win, but plus 3,500, that's the best value on the board. All right. Speaking of best value on the board, let me tell you something, man. John Gruden. All right. You guys know I love Goodr. I got my Operation Blackout. They sent it to me. So I don't know. How long do you think it'll be before I lose these? Whatever. If I do, I'll just buy more because that's how we roll. I'll be out like $25. I'll be all right. All right. Goodr. Why Goodr? Stylish sunglasses starting at only $25 a pair. All right. You get a 1-year warranty. You won't need it. 30-day free returns. You won't need it. Features and key benefits include they're lightweight and they're comfortable. They're 100% polarized. There's no slip, no bounce. They look great. They have a bunch of a huge variety. You guys got to check it out. Huge variety. Vibrant colors, sleek styles. There's a pair of Goodrs for every personality. Seriously, they've got a bunch of cool stuff for men and women. If you need a new pair of sunglasses, Goodr is giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping. You can go to goodr.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts for free shipping. Goodr offers 30-day money-back guarantee. Again, you won't need it, but it's nice it's there. And 100% satisfaction. Again, that's goodr.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts for free shipping. GOODR.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts for free shipping. All right, should I just keep these on for the rest of the show? No? Okay, good call. All right, let's look at some national championship odds here in a sec. So check this out. I think this is very interesting. All right. So look at this. National championship odds. Ohio State favored to be the repeat champion, but like I was talking with Bud Elliott this week. By the way, Bud Elliott does a great job with his summer school, and just overall, it was a pleasure to be with him. And he released it on Tuesday. His summer school, we looked at, which was also yesterday. No, he released it Monday. Excuse me, he released it Monday. So it was 2 days ago, and we did a detailed look at the 2025 Buckeyes, and I look back a little bit on last year too. But so if you haven't checked that out, it's about 27 minutes. It's on 24/7 Sports' YouTube page. It's on CBS Sports, their YouTube page. I retweeted it. Bud retweeted it, so you can check that out. But We were talking about this. Like last year, it was different. Like even though Ohio State had the second best odds, it was like they had better odds than they have this year. It was like something like Georgia plus 250, Ohio State plus 280 last year. And the other two teams that had pretty good odds were Oregon and Texas. I mean, look, those four teams ended up being pretty good last year. Georgia had the best odds, then Ohio State, like I said, then Oregon, then Texas. Oregon and Texas might have even been tied, but those four teams are kind of bunched up, and then there was a big gap. So they're telling you those four teams really were the ones that had a chance. No one really had Notre Dame that high, but those are the four teams, and turned out pretty accurate. So I always like looking at this, like as you guys know. This year's more wide open. This year, even though Ohio State is the favorite, it's plus 600. Again, it was like plus 280 last year for Ohio State and they to win the national championship, and they were second. So definitely more wide open this year. That's what Vegas is telling you. Texas is plus 650, number 2. Number 3 is Penn State, 700, plus 700. Georgia's 4th, plus 750. Oregon's next, plus 850. Those teams are all bunched together. 6th, Notre Dame, a little bit of jump here, 12-1. 7th, Bama and Clemson are tied, 14-1. And then LSU, 18-1. Garrett Nussmeier, who's actually the co-favorite to win the Heisman. We'll get to that later. I get some Heisman odds for you. You guys are going to get, if you haven't seen these, some interesting odds as far as Ohio State is concerned with the Heisman. But let's look at this again. Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Georgia, Oregon, all bunched together. Pretty much. Notre Dame, then 12-1. Bama and Clemson, 14-1. LSU, 18-1. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a good chance. If I was doing a parlay bet of teams that were going to make the playoff, I would probably take probably all 8 of those first. Maybe not Notre Dame. I'm not sure about Notre Dame this year. I would take Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Georgia, Oregon, Clemson, and Bama. I think I would take those 7 teams to make the playoff, just to make it. Those 7 just to make it. Why Clemson? Because ACC, they do have a tough schedule, though. They have to play LSU in week 1. That'll be fun. It's like, which Death Valley is it at? I believe it's at Clemson. So that'll be a very interesting game. The winner of that game has a really good chance of making the playoff. But Clemson has a bunch of guys back this year. But I do find it interesting how bunched together that is with basically the top 5 teams. Yeah, basically the top 5 teams. It's a lot different than last year. And it makes sense. I mean, just look at Ohio State. We like this year's team. We all like this year's team. But there's a lot more uncertainty. They're a lot younger. They have less depth. But they have so much talent, though. Jeez, with the best offensive player in college football, in my opinion, and Jeremiah Smith, in the opinion of many, I imagine, the best defensive player in the country, in my opinion, in the opinion, I'm sure, of many, Caleb Downs. If they get good quarterback play, if Ohio State gets good quarterback play, it doesn't have to be great. If Julian Sand plays good. We look back, he had a good year. If he has a great year, look out. He had a good year, and they figure out some depth at D tackle, they're going to be a huge problem. And they are the betting favorites to win the national championship. Imagine if we're still basking at this time next year. Is it back-to-back natties? For the first time in Ohio State history, they win back-to-back natties. But again, let's not make this a national championship or bust year like last year. Last year was, let's just stay basking, still basking. And I think part of still basking is just letting the chips fall this year, in my opinion. You guys do whatever you want, obviously. But I think beat Michigan, make the playoffs, and see what happens after that. You tell me right now they beat Michigan and make the playoffs, I'm telling you that's a successful season. Bud and I were talking about that on the show. He asked me what makes this, because last year he asked me what makes it a successful season, and I said win the national championship. He said, yeah, probably at least get to the national championship. I was thinking, no, I win the national championship. Like I said, I wasn't going to be a jerk on Bud's show, but I was like, win the national championship. That's the goal. That would make it a successful season was the question last year. This year, he asked me, what makes it a successful season in your book? Beat Michigan, make the playoffs. And then everything after that's gravy. And will I be happy if that happens and they get blown out they probably wouldn't be in the first round in that situation. They'd probably be at least in the quarterfinals. No, I wouldn't be happy with that at the moment. I'm just saying right now I would consider a win over Michigan, making the CFP. That's a successful season for the 2025 Buckeyes. Obviously, the ultimate goal does not change, that being to win the whole damn thing. Let's win the whole damn thing. But it can't be natty or bust. But it's pretty interesting, though, man. I mean, LSU, with Nussmeier, they could be kind of dangerous this year. They've also done a good job in the portal. I'm kind of going backwards here. Bama is an interesting case to me because not only is DeBoer, he's replaced. Not you never want to be the coach that replaces a legend, right? We all always say that in sports. You want to be the coach that replaces the coach that replaces a legend. Well, you sure as hell don't want to be the coach that replaces the GOAT. Saban's like another level from legend. And then stuff happens like if you miss the playoffs 2 straight years in Tuscaloosa, oh boy. And look, they're not some huge favorite. Look, they're tied with Clemson at 7th best odds to win the national championship. So if you just look at that as also the odds to make the playoff, they're in the bottom half. And they have to navigate an SEC schedule. So I don't think they play anybody of any worth in the non-conference, shockingly. So can Bama rebound and not be the juggernaut they were? That's not coming back. Just because Saban did it. I mean, Bear Bryant did it and Saban did it. Look in between there what happened. They did win one national title between Bear and Gene Stallings got him one in 93. But you look between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban, overall, mediocre city. And I don't think they're going to go back to mediocre city, but they're learning fast. There's a lot more money in places like Columbus, Ohio than Tuscaloosa, Alabama. They got a lot more money. They're having trouble keeping up, I think. No, they still have plenty of money from boosters. There's no doubt. But and going on that dynastical run that they went on, that certainly helped them become more of a national brand, although I still don't know if they're a national brand. But that definitely helped things. So they definitely have money. Don't get me wrong, but Ohio State has more money. There's no doubt about it. All right. So I find all this interesting. Oregon. What's interesting, I played high school basketball with Dante Moore's father. Otha Moore is his name. Otha Moore, great guy. He was from Michigan and transferred to the school I went to, Beaver Creek, for like his last couple years, and played on the basketball team. He was older than me. Great guy. Even though he was a Michigan fan, but he was coming from, I think he grew up in Detroit, so it wasn't like he was just one of these guys. So I did grow up with some guys who were from Ohio who I think just became Michigan fans just to be jerks. But if you came from Michigan, it was like, okay, you grew up a Michigan fan, whatever. And he was a great guy. And I didn't even put 2 and 2 together for a while that Dante Moore was Otha's son. So I'm fascinated to see how I almost called him Otha, how Dante does as Oregon starting quarterback, presuming he will be. I think they brought in a transfer too, but and they didn't say for sure who the starting quarterback is, although I think it'll be Dante. He didn't play that well as a true freshman under Chip Kelly, but he was a true freshman at UCLA 2 years ago. Redshirted this past year at Oregon, so he still has 3 years left. So be interesting to see how my former high school basketball teammate's son does as the quarterback of Oregon. It's crazy. And like I said, it took me a while to put 2 and 2 together that because Moore is not exactly like, an uncommon last name. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Otha's son. And one of my friends that went to our high school was like, you knew that? You're joking. I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I'm an idiot. I've just now found it out. I was today years old when I found out. I didn't find out today. I've now known for quite a while, but it took me a while. It was like was it like a year ago? No, it was more than a year ago. It was like, I think it was when he was at UCLA is when I found out. So it's probably 2 years ago. Maybe it was when he was going through the recruiting process, but it definitely was like after everybody else in the world who knew my Otha from, and also was an Ohio State fan or a college football fan. Everybody that had that connection other than me knew, and I was the last one that found out, which is par for the course for me. All right, let's take a look at this. I find this interesting. Last thing on this solo edition of the Morning Five. All right, here we go. Heisman odds: Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier tied as the favorite, 8-1. Cade Klubnik, 9-1. Number 4, Jeremiah Smith, 12-1. 5th, Julian Sand, 13-1. All right. Vegas is telling you really there's 3 guys that have a pretty good chance, they think. It's going to be tough for a wide receiver to win it, but how about JJ being 4th on the list to win? A wide receiver, that's incredible. And then what else are they telling you? They're telling you don't believe the hype that there is a quarterback competition in Columbus. Do they have Julian Sand 15th? No, they have him 5th. Do they know something? I mean, they know as much as we know. We've all said the same thing, right? Not a big surprise. You're the Ohio State quarterback. You've got all these wonderful toys. Where does he get all these wonderful toys? I mean, it's just amazing. Mylan Graham's the number 4 receiver. Quincy Porter's like the number 5. Bryson Rogers is the number 6 if it goes down like that. That's incredible. I mean, J.J. Smith, number 1. Carnell Tate, number 2. J.J. Smith, the best player in college football right now. I know he's 4th for the Heisman, but that's only because he's not a quarterback. Or you could say he's the best non-quarterback, but however you want to parse it. And Carnell Tate, everybody has him going as a first-round pick. Those are your top 2. It's not bad. Brandon Ennis is going to break out this year in the slot. Mylan Graham looked awesome in the spring. I just find it very interesting that JJ is sitting there, the 4th lowest odds to win the Heisman. You don't see that very often with a wide receiver. Certainly not entering a season. Love it. One of my buddies, a guy I actually do the sports gambling. We half sports gambling, half we just talk sports. We talk a lot of Ohio State football because A, we're in Columbus, and B, I'm the host of the show. So we're going to talk a lot of Ohio State football. So it's not all about gambling, but it's called On the Money. He got JJ pretty early. I'll have to check with him. It was at least 20-1, something like that. So he definitely is feeling like he got good value there because he got Jeremiah Smith to win the Heisman locked in right when the odds came out. It might have been even higher than that, but down to 12-1 for Jeremiah Smith. Julian Sayin there, 13-1. 5th best odds to win the Heisman Trophy, Julian Sayin. Very interesting. Arch Manning, real quick, I'm going to finish with this. Are we sure that he's like this awesome quarterback? I mean, I know some Texas fans wanted him to play over Quinn Ewers, but he didn't beat out Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers, 7th-round pick. Decent at Texas. Wasn't great. Definitely wasn't bad. He was decent. Good. But Arch didn't beat him out. Not just as a true freshman, but also as a second-year player. And I do wonder if his name was Arch Peterson or something like that. Like, would there be all the hype? And I mean, I get it. His grandfather was a great player, Archie Manning, and obviously, even his dad was a good player, Cooper, but his career got cut short by a neck injury, I believe, where doctors told me he couldn't play anymore, but he was good. I'm pretty sure the other 2 Mannings were pretty good as well, with Peyton and Eli. So I get it, but like, he's entering his 3rd year. Are we sure he's this? We're going to find out real quick, aren't we, in Columbus? We'll find out real quick. No, that's not going to define him, just like it won't define Julian Sayin, but it is very interesting that those guys are going to be going at it. Obviously they're not going to be on the field together, but still, Julian Sayin, Arch Manning, Ohio State, Texas, week 1. I love it. So I find it interesting. Arch Manning there, not surprising, is tied with Nussmeier at 8-1 win the Heisman. Then you got Klubnik there right behind them at 9-1. So, I mean, I hope Jeremiah Smith wins the Heisman. That would be fantastic. Not just because an Ohio State guy would win the Heisman, but a wide receiver from Ohio State winning the Heisman. That would just put the cap on Ohio State taking the reins as wide receiver Although I know LSU saying, hey, don't forget about us. LSU's put a bunch of guys in the league too. They're doing pretty darn well. Guys like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, some dudes, some guys. But Ohio State's the king right now. There's no doubt about it. And that's not going away. Jeremiah Smith, 4th best odds to win the Heisman. Julian Sayin, 5th best odds. All right, my friends. Thank you for riding along with me on this solo venture of the Bucknuts Morning 5. Dan Rubin and the boys will be with you tomorrow. Again, I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. And thanks for tuning into the show. I hope everyone has a great day. Go Bucks, still basking.